Okay, so the current instance which we are using is release 13. Until last session, the instance which we used is within the release 13 18b. The current instance is release 13 18c. So what Oracle is doing is, prior to that, before release 13 18b, we are talking about release 13, we are not talking about release 12 11. Within 13, what are the different versions they have, the revisions they have, that we are trying to understand. Prior to that, we have 18a. So within the release 13, the era of 2018, current year 2018, they applied few patches. With the patches, whatever the impact we have, that environment they released as a release 13 18a. And the same release 13 instance, again they applied set of patches. 18 means 2018, that's what we have to understand, the year name they are giving here. So within release 13 in 2018 itself, they applied again some bunch of patches. So with that, by addressing those patches application, they released version called as release 13 18b. Now the latest patch which they applied, for that they named it as a 18c, which is the very latest. Now we are in December 2018. So the same release 13 version, the same 2018 year, they applied patches. For that, they given the version name as release 13 18c. This 18a, 18b, 18c, generally we don't take into the, to address the version, ideally we call as release 13. But to understand now, since there is some change which impact with the release this 13 and 18c, we are talking about this, the revisions what they are doing with the patch applications. If you compare this release 13 18c with the previous versions of these patch applications, we can notice one difference. So this is the environment we used till last session. Now the current version is release 13 18c. It's all about the patch applications only. Version remains same, the release remains same, release 13 only. Within the release 13 in 2018, again they applied one more patch. For that, they named it as a 18c. So because of this patch impact, what you can do is, the previous classes already we discussed, we have a two type of users: implementation user, employee user. So implementation user we create from security console, and employee user we create as a part of HCM functionality, human capital management. And after creating the implementation user, we can start with the implementation, we can complete the required configuration. Once we are ready with legal entity and business unit, then we can create employee user. At the time of employee user, we have to select legal entity and business unit. So we cannot convert implementation user as an employee user. That is up to release 13 18b. Now the current version supports to convert implementation user as employee user. Okay, with this release 13 18c, this 18a, 18b, 18c, all these are the different patches which they applied within this release 13 version. Instead of changing some subversioning and all, just the patches they are addressing. So the current version is very latest version, that is release 13.18c. Within this environment, if you create at the time of when you start with the implementation, we cannot create employee user, and we have to create implementation user. That's how we did. Later what we did, once we are ready with the legal entity and the business unit, again we created user called as employee user. We assigned all the roles and we provision the access. Now we don't need to do all those activities. Create implementation user, assign roles, and once you are ready with the legal entity and business unit, convert that implementation user as a employee user, and you can, the same user will have all the provisions which employee user can have, whatever we have seen. Okay, those all you can just take that, those I mean employee user, what sort of activities can perform, those all activities can be performed by implementation user, since we have option to convert implementation user as a employee user. Okay, now we'll go and test this. First we'll create one implementation user, how to convert the same implementation user as a employee user. We know very well how to create implementation user and employee user, but since this patch is supporting to convert, we'll test the same. First we'll create implementation user, then we'll convert implementation user as employee user. Fine. When you create implementation user, we'll assign the basic roles. When you convert implementation user as employee user, the user will become employee user, and the roles which you are assigning for implementation user, the same will be applicable for this conversion. Done. Fine. So go to navigator, under tools, go to security console. Slightly they change the look and feel, right? If you compare with the previous environment, the look and feel. Even when you ideally click on this navigator also, by default you can see this navigator also in more summarized manner. The instance whatever I shared for your practice, within that you can see on top you could see show detail. If you click on that, this is how it will open all the time. Otherwise it will show in very summarized manner. Fine. So we have to select security console. Just click on security console, go to users, create user, add user account. Just we can say ERP user. I'll create with my name. Add role. Let's assign the basic roles. Application implementation consultant, IT security manager, and employee. Fine. You know, these are the basic roles which we assign to the user to start with the implementation. Let me reset other password. Fine. Say save and close. Find user. So for this user definition we did from security console. So no association with this user with elements called as business unit and person ID. Now for the same user you can convert as employee user. When you convert as employee user, system will ask us to associate legal entity and business units. The same will be reflecting if you come and search from here also. We'll see that. So we created a user. To create employee user, we have a task called as manage users, right? So go to the task, go to task list, click on search. The task name is manage users. We know very well how to create users, employee users also, but we are trying to understand how to convert an implementation user as an employee user. So click on create. So provide employee username, last name. Okay. So up to release 13.18b, up to release 13.18b, here you don't find this enter username, the radio option. Directly you can see username field only. But from release 13.18c, they given the option. If you want to create new employee user, yes, you can enter the name, or else if you want to convert existing implementation user as a employee user, we have to go this radio option. Okay, so this is a radio button we have to select. So if you select link user account with existing user, which user? Implementation user. So that's how you can convert that existing implementation user as a employee user. Further information you can just provide however we provide in case of employee user definition. Okay, if you want to create altogether new implement employee user, yes, you can provide the name. This would be equal to the previous versions. I don't want to create new user. Already I have a user. We associated roles to that user, and now the same user we want to convert as a employee user. If you want to do that, select this radio button. Now select user, which implementation user you want to convert as an employee user. Our username is, we created implementation user with this name. Search and select and say OK. Now select person type. These all points we discussed very detailed level, and we created users also, right? Now select legal employer. Okay, seems to this legal employer is not associated with the legislative data group. That those points also discussed, right? Those definitions we have to do. For now we can go with another legal employer. Okay, legal entity business unit. I'm using the ERP Cloud USA legal entity, ERP Cloud US business unit. So save and close. So this is how you can convert this implementation user as employee user definition. Now we'll go and verify the same definition from security console. Go to navigator, under tools, select security console. Go to users, username is this, search. So this user we created from security console only, and for the same user we converted as a employee user. So employee user definition time we associated this business unit, and since we converted this user as a employee user, the person number also system generated. Okay, and if you look at this user, you can find the same roles whatever we assigned as a part of implementation user definition. So these are the points we have to understand. Rest you can find out.
But he'll be restricted for only particular business unit or legal entity?
Sorry?
No, will he be restricted only for the particular legal entity?
No, see, those points we discussed very detailed level. When we had a class on this employee user definition, we discussed what is the meaning of providing that information over there. As a part of employee user definition, it's a mandatory you have to select specific legal entity and business unit. Now this user has access to ERP Cloud US business unit. That means this user is not going to record the business transactions until unless you provide the relevant roles and you provide the data access. As a part of definition, you have to select any one of the business units.
Okay.
Though those we had a good discussion on that same point, right? Any other questions on this point, please? Okay, no questions. Okay. Okay. Fine. In the last session, we completed physical inventory counting, right? In today's session, we'll see cycle counting. Cycle counting. Already we discussed the difference also between physical inventory counting and the cycle counting. In case of physical inventory counting, we do the counting, we perform the counting for the entire sub inventory or specific inventory organizations. When you say specific inventory organization, that is applicable for multiple sub inventories which are part of it. And you don't find option where you can do that counting for specific items. But in case of cycle counting, yes, you can do this counting for selected items. You can group the items and you can do it. Again, this is more periodic activity. By following certain intervals, you can perform this counting. Okay, we'll see what setups you have to perform, how it works. Okay, it's very similar to this physical inventory counting, how we did, but in terms of the configuration and the logic how we derive that item selections and all that you can find as a different, right? So if you want to perform this cycle counting, we have to create the classification for the items. So in case of physical inventory counting, we do this counting for all the items which are part of specific sub-inventory or inventory organization. But when it comes to cycle counting, we are not going to do this counting for all the items which are part of specific sub-inventory or within the inventory organization. Again, in case of physical inventory counting, so if you do the setups by selecting specific sub-inventory or inventory organization, all the items will have eligibility to participate in the counting process. But if you are going to implement cycle counting, for which items this cycle counting is applicable, you have to go on to provision. You have to specify this item should be available for cycle counting. The specification you have to give as a part of item definition by using the respective cycle counting attribute. We'll see all those points. So in case of cycle counting, what we have to do is we have to classify the items based on our requirement. We have to classify the items. The item classifications, whatever we do for the cycle counting, we call as ABC classes. Okay, first we have to create ABC classes. Okay, we have to create the item classifications. So these item classifications may be like, say for example, you want to classify the items as a class A. It's a maybe broad level classification. Class B, class C, class D, class C. So that means the items what you have within the inventory, you are classifying based on certain criteria and some base, or else if not this sort of naming convention, directly you can classify the all items. Say for example, you are dealing with the different products, you may classify those items as one class name is Apple. That means you will be grouping all the Apple products what you have within your specific inventory or sub inventory. Same way Samsung. Okay, fine. And different products, Dell, these could be your classes. You may create the classes like this, or else if you are dealing with the products like maybe based on the value, okay, very high value products or less lifetime products, and the products which will have more what I could say, more lifetime. On that base, you may do this classification, or else it could be maybe based on your classification, why you are the classification, whatever you are doing to segregate the items, which items you want to count how often. Maybe you may create one class name as monthly, other class name may be daily, other class name may be weekly, the other class name may be quarterly. So this is how you may create the four classes, and what you could do is you can associate items to this ABC class. These are the ABC classes. Okay, we are discussing we have to create ABC class. It's all about item classification. What purpose, on what base you are doing the item classification, that you can represent. You can create the classes like A, B, C, D, and this is how you can create a number of classes. With the specific criteria, you can group all those items, or else based on the product you can create the item classes, this ABC classes, or else how often you want to do this counting, cycle counting, accordingly you can create this ABC classes. So if you create the ABC class called as monthly, so which items, what are the items you have within the inventory, which items you want to count every month, those all you can group into this ABC class called as monthly. There may be some items which you want to count every day. So all those items which you want to count daily base, those all you can group with this ABC class. The items which you want to count weekly base, those you can group with this ABC class. Quarterly base, this is a. So it's all about on what base, with what criteria, or with which classification you want to count. Accordingly you can create the ABC classes. Okay, so in our case we'll go with the product brand base. Okay, the brand wise, so you may be having, you can create like this, later you may take the decision. So Apple products you want to count every weekly, that you can take the decision. So Samsung products you want to count monthly base, Dell products you want to count quarterly once, those you can take the decision. Here it's all about segregation. grouping classification we are doing. Fine. So first what we have to do is we have to create the ABC classes. ABC classes nothing but classifying the items for the convenience of this cycle counting. Okay, to perform the cycle counting, so we have to create this ABC classes. With the ABC classes you can segregate, you can group the items in the further set of definitions. Fine. First we have to create the ABC classes. These classes will use for item segregations. Directly by creating you cannot do that. We have further setups. With the help of those setups you can classify. There we use this ABC classes. So after creating the ABC classes, we have to group those ABC classes. We have to create the ABC classification sets. So create ABC classification sets. So these are the different ABC classes. We can group all these by using the ABC classification sets. We can group them. So after that, so all these sets, so see the different classes, these are the classes, these are the classes, these are the classes. These all you can group into one set. These all you can group into another set. These all you can group into another set. These all sets again you can group. Okay, that we call as assignment. Say create ABC, we can say assignment group. So set, it's a group, we just ideally call it as group. So create ABC assignment group. Classes will be grouping into sets, sets will be grouping into this assignment group. Fine. So after completing this, so within this grouping only, ABC assignment group only, we can specify which item falls under which classes, that we can specify. We'll see that. So after that, before we go and perform the cycle counting, what we have to do is we have to make item, which items are eligible for cycle counting with the item parameter. That point you can take as enable cycle counting for specific items. In case of physical inventory, without setting any item parameter for physical inventory, based on these setups we were able to do it, right? Based on this, by following this process, we performed physical inventory counting. But if you want to perform the cycle counting, you have to enable the attribute called as cycle counting attribute. You have to set cycle counting attribute as yes for specific items, for which items you want to perform this cycle counting. This is what we have to do. So after completing all these setups, as a part of process, what we have to do, once we're done with these setups, as a part of process, first we have to create the cycle counting. So create cycle counting. How we will create and all we'll see. First let's try to understand how the process will work. Okay, so when we talk about the cycle counting, we can go with automatic process or manual process. Okay, that in the definitions also we can specify whether automatically system has to select everything, the items and the classes, or manually we have to specify. The option is available, we'll see as a part of setups and process. Okay, now we can understand more detail level, we can go with a manual counting schedule. At the same time we can see if you want to go with automatic, what option is available, and we'll discuss. First we'll create the cycle count. Let's say cycle count, call it as counting. Okay, create cycle count. After that we have to create the cycle count schedules, that we can call as, say, create manual count schedule. Okay, first we'll create the cycle count and we'll create the manual count schedule. When you're performing these activities, we can understand more detail level to give you the better picture of the process which we are going to follow. I'm just writing here, that's all. After creating the manual count schedule, we can generate the sequence for the same. Say generate count sequence. One system will create the sequence, the same sequence we can see by running the report. In case of this physical inventory also the same we did. Okay, so here we created physical inventory, we created snapshot. Here we are creating the cycle counting, so here we are doing the manual count schedule. After that we generated tags. Here we are generating the sequence. Okay, here naming convention they are given as a tags, here they are giving as a sequence. Fine. After creating the tags, what you did, you submitted report to see which tag system created. Similar to that, here once you generate the sequence, okay, this is the sequence is nothing but equal to tags only. So we can see the same sequence by running the report. You can run the report, say run report called as print cycle count listing report. After that, we can record the count sequence. Record count sequence. Okay, here also the same we did, right? After running that, record physical inventory tags. Physical inventory tags, we recording here nothing but we are entering the physical inventory quantities into application. Here also same we do, record count sequence. Here record physical inventory tags. Both are equal, similar tasks. Fine. After that, what we did here, so perform adjustments, and there only we perform the approvals and we posted. So in case of physical inventory, these two tasks are separate tasks. We perform the adjustments, there itself we can do the approvals and we do the posting. We can post the adjustments. Okay, but here directly everything you can do as a part of approval. Okay, so perform approvals. If any variance, we perform the approvals. Otherwise, just once you record count sequence, that will update the variant. Just once you perform the count sequence, and you can just go to approvals. If no variant, system will directly post. If approvals are required, once you perform the approvals, this approval activity itself will post. Here post adjustments we have to do as a separate activity. Here you no need to do. Once you perform the approvals, this approvals itself will post adjustments also. Okay, here we perform adjustments and we do the approvals. We perform adjustments, we do approvals, and we post adjustments. Okay, these three actions you can do here with the approved action. When you are going to approve, there itself you can do that adjustments, and once you approve, automatically system will post the adjustments. Again, you don't need to perform any action called as post adjustments. All will happen in one go. So after performing this, we will check on hand quantity. And based on these adjustments, what are the adjustment system will post for the variance between system on hand quantity and the physical inventory quantity, system will result the transactions, right? It will create the transactions. We'll go and review. Say review completed transactions. And before we go and perform this cycle counting also, just we'll check on hand quantity available for the item and we'll make a note, so that here we can, when you are going to record count, we will be able to provide some quantity and easily we can understand how much variance we are going to get. So before we start with the cycle count also, we'll check on hand quantity. Okay, we'll check on hand quantity and we'll make a note so that we can understand how much quantity we have as per physical inventory, how much quantity is available, the variance, how it goes, we can understand all the points. Okay, this is what we are going to see. If you compare with the physical inventory counting process, this is very similar process wise, and concept wise what is the difference already we discussed. So since we have to select items and we have to classify, these are the additional setups. Okay, and if you compare with this physical inventory process, since in the physical inventory counting, so no criteria for item selections, it's all about sub inventory level or inventory level. That is the reason no setups are required. Directly here we are creating the physical inventory, here we are creating the cycle count, here we are creating the snapshot. Similar to that, here we are just creating the equal to snapshot manual count schedule, and here we are generating the tags, here we are generating the sequence. The same tags we are able to see by running this report, the same sequence you can see by running this report. And after that we are recording the physical inventory tags, nothing but for each tag we just print this report and will submit the warehouse team. They will be providing that inputs, how much based on the quantity available, they will be providing that information, will be entering by using the record physical inventory tags. Here also by using the record count sequence, will be entering on hand quantity into the system. After that, here we'll perform the adjustments and we'll approve and we'll post those adjustments. This is all you can do it in one go here. So we can look into the adjustments and we can approve and we can, system will post the adjustments automatically. After that, just to make sure that the quantities, the approved posted adjustments are updated as on hand quantity are not be verified, and the result of adjustment system will create the transaction that we verified. The same we are going to do here. If you compare as it is, but here criteria is sub inventory or inventory, but here also the same, but within that you can go with selection for classification of items. Again you have to give a permission which item can involve in the cycle counting. That is the reason these are the additional setups. If you compare the process, same process, some naming convention and approach is different, that's all. Fine, we'll go and see this. First we'll create ABC classes. How you want to classify the items for the cycle counting purpose. My requirement is I want to count these items, this Apple products, Samsung products and Dell products separately. So let's go on to create ABC classes as Apple, Samsung, Dell, or else you may go with the class A, B, C, or some periodic based classes also you may create. Okay, fine. We'll go with this simple example. Go to instance, go to our project, task list, okay, search for task called as ABC classes. Task name is manage ABC classes. Okay, counting purpose we want to classify the items as the brand based we want to classify. So click on go to task icon. So select dollars. We have two inventory organizations. I'm selecting ERP3 dollars inventory. So classes, whatever I'm going to create, those are applicable for this dollars inventory. So within the dollars inventory, what are the different items we have, how you want to classify. You want to classify as a with these classification names. Fine. Click on create. The classification is Apple products. Samsung products. And Dell products. Say save and close. We created ABC classes. Now we have to create class set. Okay, we just will create the set definition only. We don't, purpose is to group these ABC classes, but as a part of this definition we don't do it. So when we go with ABC assignment group, then we'll be grouping all these classes into this set. We'll see that. Create ABC classification sets. The next two ABC classes, we have a task called as manage ABC classification sets. Click on go to task icon. Say create. We are in the dollars inventory. You notice that whatever the setup we are doing, that is applicable for this inventory organization only. So here we can give the name as ERP3 ABC classification set. Okay, this classification set, how you are going to do this counting, that you can select. Okay, count, scope, organization level you want to do it, or sub inventory level you want to do. So if you just select organization level, ideally the valuation also, the counting also will do at organization level. Let's go with the organization level and criteria. Okay, how you are going to do this counting and what level, what parameter. The general parameter would be on hand quantity. We'll check the on hand quantity or else item cost. Okay, so there are different criterias, but generally we do these countings for on hand quantities. Again, depending on item, in most of the cases we do for on hand quantities. Select specification within under specifications criteria as a current on hand quantity. We want to do it at organization level. Okay, inventory organization level. Give the specification, say submit. See here we are not grouping ABC classes into this, just we are defining the next step. As a part of group definition, we group those ABC classes into this specific ABC classification set. Okay, here just we are giving the criteria. Say done. Next task is ABC assignment group. Okay, ABC assignment group. Next to ABC classification sets, we have a task called as ABC assignment groups. Click on go to task icon. Okay, this definition also we are doing within this dollars inventory. Just click on add. You can give the group name. ABC assignment group. Okay, here you have to select ABC classification set. ERP3 ABC classification set. So for this set, what are the ABC classes are applicable, those you can list out. We created 3 classes, right? In the first step, the ABC classes, we created these three classes. Those you can select. Sequence 1. So Apple. Okay, because the three definitions, whatever we did, those two definitions, whatever these two definitions, what we did for specific inventory organization, right? So whenever you select this ABC classification set, system will identify the inventory organization. This is the created for each inventory. Accordingly, it will display these values. Click on add. So del or any value you can select. We are listing out, that's all. Okay, done. We created assignment group. So save and close. And reopen the same. Okay, just reopen. Here go to perform ABC assignments. Okay, just click on this tab. So on what base you want to do this kind of counting, the criteria you can specify. Okay, so inventory value and all these other information we have, but we want to do with on hand quantity base. So already that we given. So just here you don't need to provide any information. Okay, you don't need to provide any information. So what you can do is just click on submit. Open and click on submit. Okay, just give the sequence, otherwise just is expecting the sequence. The same sequence should get default basically. Fine, no issues. Fine, just provide the sequence. Fine, no issues with this, we don't need to worry about it. Give some sequence, some numbering here. Must provide the sequence for first ABC class sequence must be provided increasing order. Should accept. Well, let's cancel and we'll come back. What's wrong with this? This is how we have sequence. Apple 1, right? This 3. One second. Yeah, this 2 you can make. What's wrong with this? Just I'm removing one. Let's see how it works. Basically, it should accept. I'll save one. So save and close, submit. Done. Again, I'll say save and close, and again reopen. This tab should be open. Oops, it's not taking. Yeah, I think it's not taking the update earlier. Fine, we submitted save. Now this is how you could see update ABC assignments. Just here you can go and specify for which item. Okay, for which item you want to classify into which ABC class. You click on this update ABC assignments. Here all the items would be available. How many items we have? Okay, all the items would be available here. So as a part of this inventory, we have only two items: ERP 1001, ERP 1002, iPhone and MacBook. Now you can specify. If you have 100 items, 100 items will be listed here. Then you can specify which item will falls under which ABC class. So MacBook, Apple product. So their sequence we given based on sequence it is taken here, but you can select to the item into right class. I'm selecting this iPhone also, ABC falls under Apple ABC class only. This is how just for all the items you can select into right classification and say save and close. Okay, so save and close, done. Fine. So this is how just you can select items into specific classifications, item classifications. So we created ABC class and sets and groups. Within the group only we selected which item exactly falls under which ABC class we specified. So now what we have to do is we have to go and enable which items can be involved in the cycle counting process. So what we can do is you can go to item definition, product information management, go to task list, manage items. Find items. So we have two items within that inventory: ERP 101001, ERP 1002. Same two items we can see. We are dealing with which inventory? Dallas inventory. So respectively you have to select these items. So scroll it to right, you could see. So ERP $3. The second record. Click on this item. The same is item is associated with the multiple inventory organizations. Okay. So open this item definition. Go to specifications tab. And here see, next what we are going to do now, we are trying to enable, and after completing that we have to create the cycle count. When you create cycle count, if you don't enable item for cycle count, that won't be available for cycle count. That's all. Okay. When you create the cycle count, you want to do the cycle counting for which items you have to select in the cycle counting definition. So there you could see items which are enabled for cycle counting only. So go to item definition. Under specifications, you can find that parameter. And here go to inventory section. Scroll little down. You have a cycle count enabled. Set to yes. So that this item only for dollars inventory, it would be available for cycle counting. So save and count. Save and do close. And we'll do the same for other item also. MacBook also. So check our dollars inventory. This is a record. Click on the same record. Go to specifications. For these two items, for specific sub inventory organizations, we are enabling cycle counting. Go to inventory section. And here is attribute called as cycle count enabled. Select as a yes. So save and close. Done. So we completed required setups. Okay, we're done with the setups. Now we'll see the process. Before we go and perform the cycle count, we'll check what is on-hand quantity available for these items within the dollars inventory. Yeah. So on the prior version, okay, prior version release 13 and 18B, you could see this as a separate task, but here in 18C they just moved under supply chain execution. Under supply chain execution, you can find the task called as inventory management. Earlier you can see as a separate key task. So here pretty dollars, fine. Go to task list. So manage item quantities. Click on search. So here P1001 means iPhone. How much on hand quantity we have? 1000. This item is MacBook. Here also we have 1000 on hand quantity. Just you can just make a note. Remember 1000 quantity we have for these two items. Okay, 1000. For two items we have 1000. Now we'll go on to perform the cycle count. Go to task list. Here select show tasks. I can hear some noise from someone. Okay. Go to counts. Okay, go to counts. So create cycle count. Just click on create cycle count. Here you can find items which are enabled for cycle count only. Fine. Since we are doing the cycle count for this inventory organization, so within this inventory, how many sub inventories we have, that system is displaying. Sub inventory names also MacBook and iPhone. Within the MacBook sub inventory we have 1000 MacBooks. Within the iPhone sub inventory we have 1000 iPhones. Okay, item name, we have items called as iPhone and MacBook. Respectively, we have a sub inventory organizations, sub inventories. Fine. You can give the name, count name. So say December 2018 count. And you want to consider within this sub inventory organization, we at the time of the set definition, right, assignment set definition, we selected what level. Okay, what level you want to do this counting, we selected as inventory organization. Now within that inventory we have two sub inventories. Now you have to select, you want to perform this, you want to perform this cycle counting for these two sub inventories or only one sub inventory. You have to select here. How to select? Just you can select these two records or specific record, say include in count, or else place cursor here and click, all the sub inventories will get selected. Click on include in count, then system will mark it as a included. Just click on include in count. That means we are going to consider these two sub inventories for cycle counting. Just if you are going to consider, you cannot access the items. What are the items are available within this sub inventories, that you have to set as a cycle count enabled as yes. That already we did, right? Now select your ABC assignment group. Okay, these points are very important. If I select append changes, okay, see here the point is synchronization mode. Synchronization mode means if I select within the synchronization mode means defaulting. So defaulting means within this ABC assignment group, what are the items within this group, we have a classes. Under those classes we assign the items. All the items will be defaulted. Which items has eligibility of cycle counting, all will be defaulted for this cycle count process. And that is the meaning of synchronization. Synchronization means the items will get defaulted. And append changes means once system will default, you will be able to do the changes. And if you select the option called as complete, it won't allow you to do the changes. It will default, you have to proceed with the same. If you want to go with your own choosing option, you can go with the none. You are telling to the system, don't allow the system to synchronize based on the ABC classification grouping. Within that grouping, what are the items we have, which falls under specific ABC classes. Accordingly, system should not default. I want to choose. I may not run this counting for all the items. For which items I want to run this cycle counting, even this definition also I want to choose. If that is a requirement, you can select as none, or else if you want system to default and you want to do the changes, you can go with this synchronization option. And or else let system default and you don't want to do the changes, you can go with the complete. If you select none, you should select. We'll see how to select. So if system is defaulting, yes, there's nothing. But if you are going to select, how to select, you have to understand. Let's go with this none option. That means we are not asking system to default based on our definition. We want to choose it. Okay, when you are testing, you can go with the other options also. Process remains same, only whether you want to select or you want system to default. There you have to take the decision. Fine. Just click on next. Now here the point is, you want to schedule this counting, means you can enable this automatically schedule. Okay, system will schedule and you can just system will be scheduling the cycle counting. One system will schedule the cycle count, the rest of activities you can perform. Okay, so it will just system, if you enable this automatic schedule, system will create the cycle counting under instead of manual count schedules, it will go with automatic schedules. So if you want to do it whenever you require, you don't need to go with automatic schedules. Okay, if you are going to automatic schedules, you can choose how often you want to do it. And we have created facility schedules. The same calendar system will use it. Okay. So here that's nothing but workday calendar as per EBS. In Fusion we have facility schedules we are calling. We create our own, right? But within this instance you can see this different one, because that instance already scrapped. Already we discussed, right? This is a new instance. Within this instance I selected this workday schedule as a part of inventory organization definition, inventory parameters. That is the reason the same is defaulting here. Fine. So in this cycle counting, for cycle counting process, if you need approvals, that you can enable the approvals here. Approvals required always, or if out of tolerance, if system on hand quantity and physical inventory on hand quantity, if there is any variance, so in that case only you need, or else always you require approvals when you are executing this cycle counting, that you can select always, or if out of tolerance. More than the tolerance, we may set tolerance limits. Okay, if out of tolerance, if you say how much tolerance, you can specify 1%, 2%. Let's say it may be like it, there may be tolerance, may not be tolerance. As a part of process we want to go with approvals. We want to perform the action called as approve, then only this has to be approved. Okay, that's how finally we can execute this. Fine. So I'm not selecting automatic process. So we'll go and run it manually. Automatic schedule means automatic system will do the schedule. How often it has to be scheduled, you have to select. Now we will go and do it manually. We can schedule manually and we can understand in the better way. So click on next. We selected approvals required when always. Okay, starting count sequence. This is nothing but equal to tags. Okay, in case of physical inventory counting, we given the tags. Here not tags, here sequences. Maximum days before late. It's very simple. So we are creating the cycle counting today. So the cycle actual counting, the cycle counting execution should happen within how many days? It should happen within 5 days. Before 5 days, it's more than 5 days means system will consider you planned today but you didn't complete within 5 days, it is a late. That's how system will consider. Okay, if you take initiative to count, now how many days you want to complete it, otherwise system will be considering it's a late. It has to be completed within before 5 days only. It's a, you created cycle counting today but you are going to complete this process within 6th day or 7th day, system will consider as a you are doing this activity bit late. Fine. And here you can specify manual counts allowed. Yes, we are going to do through manual process only. Automatic scheduling and all we didn't select manual count allowed. And serial number generation and all the serial numbers and all not required here. Done. So again, yep, that's it. Just this specification, you select manual count allowed. That is enough. We can perform them manually. And here you select ABC classes. See, we didn't select synchronization as a append or complete. If you select that append or complete in this enter primary data section in the first step, system will default all your ABC classes, and for by following the ABC class, which item is eligible to select, those will default. We didn't select, that is the reason we have to select as per our preference. We may have a multiple ABC classes, but you may do this process for specific class of items only. I don't want to do this counting for all these ABC classes. I want to do for only Apple ABC class. Counts per year. Within the year, how many times you want to do this counting? Maybe 12 times I want to do that. You can specify here. Okay. Now go to this add. So within this ABC class, which items we want to take into this counting? Select items. You can find items here for which items are enabled for cycle count. Okay. For these two items, we enabled cycle count enabled parameter as a yes. right? That is the reason we are able to see these two items. I'm selecting iPhone, say OK, and again add MacBook also. If you set cycle count parameter as yes, then only you can find the item here, because you have these items as a part of ABC class, as a part of that definite ABC classification group definition. You don't get here. Only system will verify. Even if you search also, you don't find it. Now we are able to find reason. We set the parameter to yes. That's all. So two items we selected, and now you can say next. So save and close. Just click on done. Okay, we created cycle count. Within the cycle count, we specified how we want to do the count, automatically or manually, and by following which intervals. I mean, intervals in the sense we didn't specify, because intervals means automatically option will give you the intervals. But we selected manual option, and we selected items. For which item class, for which items only we want to do the cycle count. You may have a multiple item classes, multiple items. Always you may not do it. So as per your requirement, how you want to perform that cycle count, you can do it. Again, we given the specification within 1 year we want to do 12 times. Yeah, please, any question? Okay, there was some noise like this. Done. Now we're going to create the manual count schedule. Here, however, we created snapshot. Snapshot means against the within that inventory how much quantity of item it has, that it will take the snapshot. It takes the information. Okay, from the actual inventory, from the our within the inventory organization, how much on hand quantity is available, it will take the snapshot the same way. So manual count schedule also will just do similar activity. So now what we have to do is we have to go to cycle count, what you created just now. Go to manage cycle counts. So this is a count we created. Now what we have to do is select it, go to actions, and manage manual count schedules. Generate count schedules in the sense, if you at the time of cycle count definition, if you select automatic and if you set some intervals, then you can use this generate count schedules. Based on that what I can say, that frequency which you specify, accordingly it will generate. But now we specified manual option, so manually we have to create the count schedules. Just select manual count schedules. Click on this action. So here manually we have to select, click on add, select item. This item is in which sub inventory. So this is an iPhone sub inventory, and click on add. So MacBook item, that is part of MacBook sub inventory only. Okay, so say save and close. This is how just manually we have to schedule. If it is automatic schedule means it's automatic, it will pick based on the definition time. If you select automatic, and if If you specify the frequency, as per that cycle count definition, two items are there, two it will pick. So if it is a manual, you will have an option of selecting only one. If you have a 10 as per the cycle count here, you may do this manual count only for 1, 2, or 3 or 4 items. You will have an option to choose. Okay, we're done with that. Now we have to generate count sequence, which is equal to generating the tags. Okay, generate count sequence. The same manage cycle count only we have to open. I'm just clicking on done. So the system will take the updates, whatever just now we did as a manual count. Again, go to task list, manage cycle counts. Go to actions. We are going to generate count sequences. So, okay. It will trigger the process. Okay. So what sequence it generated, you can go and find with the report. You have to run this report. We'll just navigate to ESS job page, schedule process job page. Go to scheduled processes. Completed. Generate count sequences. I will run the report. Okay, this is a report which gives us the sequences what are created by system, similar to tags. So it provides information for specific item to cycle count. Say okay and provide the parameters. We are running this report for which inventory organization? Dollars. For dollars only we created cycle count, right? Select the same cycle count. Rest of parameters you can ignore. Okay. If you want to see the display on hand quantities also within this, you can select yes, it will display on hand quantities also, which are available within this inventory. Fine. Scroll little down, you could see output. Click on republish. go with this print option, actions, export in PDF format. We have many other format options. So you open. So two sequences system created for each item, one sequence. For ERP 1001 for this item, iPhone one sequence, for MacBook. This report we can give it to warehouse team. They'll just count and they'll give the number information here. Count quantity, how much quantity they identified, some comments, who counted, on which date the count happened for this item. So based on this information we'll get from the team, and that same we can update in the system also. Okay. Done. So we given like basically we no need to provide these details to warehouse team when they are going to perform this counting, but as a part of the report parameter we given show system on and quantity also, right? System is showing. So as per system we have 1000 MacBooks, 1000 system quantity. This information we no need to give it to warehouse. Just want to see and all you can do it. So then they'll enter here. Anyway, this information will enter in the system that count quantity will be compared with this, and variances will be working on adjustments and all that. Second, yep. Okay, done. So now just go back to the same cycle count. We'll just refresh this. Search. Here its criteria is equals. So start with. Done. So we complete up to here. Record count sequence. Okay. Here if you compare with the physical inventory counting. So record physical inventory tags. Here we are calling as record count sequences. Now, so once you submit that report by requesting to provide on-hand quantity availability in the real inventory, physical inventory, they'll provide. Once we get that information, we have to enter in the system, right? That we do as a record count sequence. Go to actions, so record count sequences. So we got a report from warehouse team which says as per uh, the physical inventory we have 2500 iPhones, and who counted, a person called as ERP3 counted. Go with uppercase. One second. I'll say is not blank. That means where the name is not blank, it will give that results. Set the same for all. Set. So with one parameter it should work with one. Since it's double star mark. What's wrong with this? Ideally it should fetch the same user. Yeah. Fine, no issues. You can select any one of these. Okay, fine. Yeah, it's not selecting. The reason here is, in this case, this ERP tree is not employee user. Okay, if this user is employee user, then only it will pick here. Otherwise, you cannot select. That is the reason it is not taking. Here we found 300 on-hand quantities available for as per warehouse. Here you cannot select implementation user. Only you can select if user is employee user. Okay, done. So we got a report from warehouse team that we are entering here. Done. Say submit. Okay. Now you can just go and do approve and post the adjustments. So here also it's showing count sequence, two sequences we have, right, as per report we have seen for two items to approve. You can click on this and you can navigate and you can go and do from here also, from this dashboard, or else you can navigate directly from here. Go to manage cycle counts. And one more point here, from here also you can perform the actions instead of perform the actions from that cycle count, directly from record cycle count sequence, approve count sequences. This you can perform from here also, but all the actions you can perform by navigating to manage cycle counts. So now here you can go, you can say approve cycle sequence, approve count sequences. Okay, here if you want to do some modifications, you can go with edit and you can do some changes. If you think it's fine, you can proceed with that. Okay, it is showing deviation percentage. If you want to see exactly how much quantities deviation is happened for the respective items, you expand it. Okay, for this item you can click on this expand. Below it will show expand for item ERP3 1002 means MacBook, that it is showing. So it is showing very clearly. So primary suggested quantity means this is a system quantity, and count quantity is 2500. Okay, and the how much quantity you are going to adjust is 15. This is a variance. So by looking at this information, if you want to reject, you can reject, or else click on edit and go and do the modification for these items. So you may change something like how much you want to adjust, how much you want to accept. Those you can do the changes, or else you may request warehouse team to recount. Okay, you can click on recount and it will be just system will update the status to recount, and they may perform the again counting. Again you can update. That's how you can take the action. The same way for every item you can expand and you can see what is the quantity in the warehouse and what is the count quantity we got from warehouse, and what is the, okay, this is system quantity, this is the actual warehouse quantity availability, this is the variance. All you can look at and you can approve or reject, and or you may request for recounting. Okay, I'm just selecting this both. I'm going to say approve. Once you click on approve, okay, so just I submitted for approval. Say submit. Now it will perform the post adjustments also, like same as physical inventory counting. Here there is no separate action to perform post adjustments, so directly it will happen. Okay, reviewed by, since this user is not employee user, it is not defaulting. Okay, say submit. So this is how just you can perform the posting of adjustments. Now we will go and check the on-hand quantity for the same items. So go to inventory. So manage item quantities. Earlier when we verified 1000, click on search. Now 3000 iPhones, 2500 MacBooks. And to update these quantities, system perform the transaction also as an adjustment transaction. Right, that also you can see from completed transactions. Review completed transactions. You can select the date range here. In the dollars inventory, we are verifying any transactions available. Yes, system has to create those transactions. So this thousand for the inventory transaction. Just to update the quantities, thousand quantities as a stock availability. These are the manually created. These two are cycle counting. So transaction source type is cycle count, cycle count. Okay, 2000 for iPhone, 1500 for MacBook. These two created by the cycle counting, the posting process, adjustments posting process. So this is how we can do the cycle counting. This is all about cycle counting. The next topic. Done with this physical inventory counting and cycle counting. In tomorrow session we can work on this planning methods. Okay, we'll start working on the planning methods. Any questions on today's session, please? Fine, no questions. We'll connect tomorrow same time and we'll continue from here. Thank you all. Have a good day and good night.